Who's actually going to get the most out of a 200-bottle wine fridge, and who would be better off putting that money toward a smaller unit or a simple countertop cooler? If you're the kind of person who keeps a growing collection, likes to have a few bottles on hand for dinner parties, and wants to protect those investments from temperature swings, you might be leaning toward a larger cabinet. On the other hand, if your wine stash never tops a dozen bottles and you're tight on kitchen space, the extra square footage could feel like a waste. And, of course, the big question: does the price make sense for the everyday buyer who just wants a reliable place to store wine without breaking the bank? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started looking at the ORYMUSE large 200-bottle wine fridge, the first thing that made me pause was the sheer size. A 24-inch deep, freestanding unit isn't something you can just tuck behind a pantry door. You have to measure your space, think about ventilation, and decide whether you want it to sit as a standalone piece or be built into a cabinet. That's a real-world hurdle that many shoppers gloss over when they're dazzled by the headline 200 bottles. I also wondered about the everyday usability. Will the temperature stay steady when I open the door for a glass? And how noisy will the compressor be during a movie night? Those are the sort of practical concerns that turn a seemingly perfect spec sheet into a potential headache. Let's talk about who should actually consider this model. If you're a serious hobbyist who's already counting bottles on a spreadsheet, the 16 Beechwood shelves give you a sturdy, attractive way to organize everything from Pinot Noir to heavy-bodied Cabernet. Beechwood is gentle on corks, so you won't worry about the shelves scratching the necks as you slide bottles in and out. The double-layer glass door adds a visual showcase element, great if your dining area doubles as a wine bar, and also creates a tighter seal that helps keep the interior temperature stable. For anyone who lives in a region with occasional power outages, the temperature memory function is a quiet hero. The fridge remembers the last setting and ramps back up quickly, reducing the risk of a wine spoilage nightmare. Now, who should walk away? First, renters who can't modify cabinetry or who need a unit that can be moved easily. The ORYMUSE is built to be freestanding or built-in, but it's heavy enough that moving it up a flight of stairs is a workout. Second, people who have a modest collection and are looking to save on electricity. While the double glass door and compressor do a decent job at insulation, a 200-bottle capacity still means a larger cooling chamber that runs longer to keep the set temperature, which can add to your monthly bill. Finally, if you need a super quiet unit for an open-plan living space, you might want to read a few more user comments about noise level before committing, because an active compressor can hum louder than a small thermoelectric cooler. In terms of daily use, the fridge's layout feels intuitive. The shelves are evenly spaced, so you can store a mix of standard 750 milliliters bottles and a few larger magnums without having to constantly rearrange. I imagined a typical scenario: a Saturday dinner where you pull out a bottle of Zinfandel, pop the glass, and the double glass door stays cool enough that the wine inside doesn't warm up too quickly. That's the kind of real-world advantage you get when the door is well insulated. Your guests won't notice a temperature dip after a quick opening. The temperature memory also shines during those rare blackout moments. You won't have to manually reset the thermostat when the power returns, which saves both time and the anxiety of potentially losing a few valuable bottles. On the flip side, the unit size can be a double-edged sword. Because it's designed for up to 200 bottles, the interior volume is generous, but that also means the compressor has to work harder to cool a larger space, especially if you load it up to the max right away. If you fill it completely and then open the door frequently, you might notice a slight temperature bounce before the system stabilizes again. That's not a deal breaker for most collectors, but it's worth knowing if you plan to use the fridge as a grab-and-go station during parties. Another practical nuance is the door lock. It's a safety feature that works well for households with kids, but the lock mechanism can be a little stiff on first use. Once you get the feel for it, it's fine, but it does add an extra step if you're constantly reaching in.